Hi, my name is Louise Mugar. Together with my husband Pat Grubb, we publish the All Point Bulletin, the community newspaper of Point Roberts. We welcome you to the Point Bulletin. The subject of our show today is the parks of Point Roberts.
Hi. Part of an area's attractions are the recreational amenities that are available to residents and visitors. Today we're going to visit the parks and the people who are responsible for their direction and management.
There are 6 separate park properties on the Point. 3 of them, Lighthouse Marine Park, Monument Park, and a small parcel by the marina, are owned and operated by Whatcom County. The Gulf Road Community Center and Baker Field are operated by the Point Roberts Park and Recreation District. Finally, there is a park owned and operated by the Maple Beach Property Owners Association.
We'll be speaking first to Roger deSPAIN, Director of the Whatcom County Parks Board.
We understand that your department has a special events budget, and we were wondering if you could tell us a bit about the budget and also how budget problems have affected your ability to provide programs in county parks. Particularly, we're talking about Lighthouse Marine Park in Point Roberts.
I'd be happy to. In our park and recreation operations, we have what is known as a recreation division, and there's 2 sections included in that, and that's cultural arts and outdoor recreation. We don't specifically have a special events budget, but contained within those 2 sections, the cultural arts and the outdoor recreation, they do provide various activities in our county park system. Over the past 10 years, we have had a budget reduction, and since that, our budget has been status quo ever since. So we haven't ever been able to replace what we had 10 years ago, and we were providing things like the Arts and Crafts Fair at Point Roberts. And what we've had to do is rely on other kinds of activities, other groups coming in to share that with us. And at the Point Roberts, we just haven't been able to pull together a program to substitute with the Arts and Crafts Fair.
We know that there's a fee structure for non-residents to use county parks, and that includes Lighthouse Park. Could you just explain the definition of resident and what procedures people can follow to show residency?
Yes, on the residency question, we do have a policy for all non-residents, and that's Point Roberts, our Lighthouse Marine Park, as well as all the others. We ask individuals coming to the park, are they a resident of Whatcom County? If they are not, then we ask, there is a charge for them to come in. Now, individuals at Point Roberts, many of them do own property at Point Roberts, and as a result of that, all they have to do is show us a tax receipt, and that isn't always available, and we realize that. So what we have put together for the point, and that is a card. It's an ID card that once they show us that they are a tax-paying participant in Whatcom County, but they just show that card and they have entrance like every other tax supporter of Whatcom County. So there is a difference. If you are a tax-paying member of Whatcom County, then there is no out-of-county fee. And of course, if you're not, then you do pay that extra fee.
Back to budget questions for a moment. Now, do any of the county parks, including Lighthouse Park, generate significant non-resident fees to help cover some of the park expenses?
Yes, we do. We do collect non-resident fees throughout our park system, and they do help offset what we call our revenue budget. We forecast each year what we're going to generate in revenue about 1 year in advance. And for example, at Point Roberts at Lighthouse Marine Park, that's approximately $8,000 that is used to offset the maintenance and operation costs. When we look at the overall budget and the dollars that we generate around $380,000 a year, and our non-resident fees throughout the system represents about 8 to 10% of that. And so those figures are used to help offset our costs.
All right. Now, do you find that there are particular problems in bringing activities to Lighthouse Park? Let's say difficulties that are not a factor in other mainland county parks?
Well, of course, the most uniqueness is where Point Roberts is located, and you must go through 2 borders to get there. And that has presented a challenge in the past and still today of trying to get folks there. For example, when we had the Point Roberts Arts and Crafts Fair, is one that showed us the greatest of challenges, and that was trying to get the artists and their products that they produce and are going to sell at the point, trying to get them bonded and get their materials across in a timely manner, as well as the entertainers coming across. It was there's that transportation and trying to get it from point A to point B across there, and that probably is one of the underlying constraints that we see with trying to do major, and I would say major events at Point Roberts at Lighthouse Marine Park. The smaller events is no problem, especially if we can draw with those right there at the point. We don't have those kinds of challenges that say for Hovander or Silver Lake Park.
We now visit Lighthouse Park and speak with Ben Van Buskirk, the park's manager.
So can you tell us a little bit about the park and its facilities?
Sure. It's a 22-acre day-use, camping, boat launching park. We're located in Point Roberts on the southwest corner, and the three main activities are camping. People come down to go fishing, mostly in the summertime, but weekends are busy. During the week, we usually have camp spots available. Boating is pertaining to the whale watching as well as fishing. July seems to be our good month because the salmon runs are in, and therefore the whales are in, and the fishermen are out. And then day use has a wide variety of things, from kite flying to whale watching to bird watching, depending on the time of year. In the wintertime, people come out just to watch the storms and such.
Okay. Now, who would you say mainly uses the park?
We get, as far as visitation goes, we have about 94% coming from out of the state. Not very many Oregonians or Californians, a few, but mostly from north of the border, about 6% from Whatcom County. I would say most of those are day-use people coming in to use the boardwalk and have picnics and partake in the day-use activities. And our smallest clientele would most likely be the campers. We've only got 22 campsites. And we can launch upwards to about 250 boats here on a weekend in July.
And how long can campers stay for? How does that work?
We have a 14-day limit, and the purpose for that is we'd like to get some exchange. We don't want people moving in here. We want people vacationing here, coming down and staying up to 14 days and giving other people a chance to come in. Like I said, weekends are real busy.
Right.
We'd rather serve more people than one person all summer.
That makes sense. Now, you mentioned earlier that people are really into the whale watching and the bird watching and probably good views of fishermen and their boats. But what would you say, what kind of, in terms of attractions here, in terms of what people are looking at, what sort of birds do you get here?
Well, in the wintertime, the Jaegers are rather uncommon, and we get a lot of people trying to write down in their bird watching books that they saw a Jaeger. Every once in a while, we get a brown pelican that gets a little off course or comes up in the sheltered waters on his migration trip. In the wintertime, we get the California gray whales coming through here, and usually about this time of year they should be heading back.
And there's pretty good-sized pods that come through, isn't that so?
We have 3 local pods, the J, K, and L pod of the orca whales, and just last night we happened to see one of them. I can't tell you which one, but there were about 20 whales out last night.
Wow. Do you come here very often?
Yeah, we're here for the preschool picnic today, but we camp across the road the odd time.
And how do you find it?
Oh, real nice.
Like it?
Yeah.
Good.
Nice ocean breeze and nice and clean. Yeah, real enjoyable.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Great. I didn't want to tell too many people about the camping because there's not that many spots. I guess the secret's out now, though.
But I just like it's peaceful. I like seeing the islands, the San Juans and the Gulf Islands, and watching the whales when they come through. And my son loves beach combing.
It's going to be run free of
Near
charge
Baker Community Field, we now talk with Mary Monahan Snell, the newest board member of the Point Roberts Park and Recreation District.
So what do you think the residents would like to see in terms of facilities and services for park users?
For the facilities, I'm not too sure because no one's come right up to me and asked me. I know that we're going to get a new school building eventually over there, and I'm hoping that there'll be some adult education go on. And in the summertime, I assume we can use it also for various summer programs like the one we're having this year.
And what would that be? Tell me about the summer program.
The summer program they're having, they just hired 2 people, or I should say we just hired 2 people. It's going to be run free of charge for the little kids in the morning and the bigger kids in the afternoon. I think it's arts and crafts and sports and just things to keep them busy. Even Point Roberts can get boring for children, not for grown-ups.
All right. So what do you believe is the #1 priority for local parks?
I think what we have to look at now that the school thing seems to be going, knock wood, now that the school thing seems to be going, we have to look at the replog money. There's a lot of money there, and we have to use it down at the community center. But I think it's important that the public give us all the feedback they can, all the positive and constructive and realistic feedback that they can on how they want us to use the money. Because it's a lot, and we can do a lot of good with it. But we're not the people to say how it gets used. It's important that we hear from the public.
Do you think that there will be public meetings held on this, or?
I would assume so, yeah, I hope so.
You think there will be an open
I don't know
forum?
how else we could do it without seeing, letters are good. People can write to the post office, box 156S, Parks Board. But also I hope eventually when things smooth out a little bit with the Parks Board, it's just been so busy lately, that we can have a few public meetings and find out how people feel about it and what they want.
So have you and the rest of the Parks Board actually, sort of talked over any ideas? I mean, I realize that you're interested in getting public input, but are there any sort of general feelings percolating up?
Generally, we have to, first we have to renovate the building. We have to use the money only on the community center and the area surrounding the community center. We need new washrooms, we need new wiring, we need a whole bunch of just maintenance stuff like that just to keep the building good. And then from there, we haven't heard anything. The Historical Society came to us with their wish list at one meeting, and that involved perhaps, I don't know if the money can go to this at all, but the purchase of additional property next to the community center in order to put an older building, an older historical building on the property. I like that idea, but I don't know legally if the money can be used for that. But that was one really good suggestion, I thought.
So that kind of open forum is welcome.
Yeah,
okay,
oh, definitely.
Great.
Yeah, otherwise, how do we know?
So we have got a land-based lunch site.
We meet Jack Fraser, president of the Point Roberts Chamber of Commerce at the public beach just south of the marina.
Now, I know there's been a lot of anxiety on behalf of the residents and some question about whether or not the fireworks display was going to be held this year. Can you tell us how it's been resolved?
Well, we haven't got it completely resolved yet. We do have a launching platform on a small barge that we hope to be able to use out in front of the reef by the pilings, very close to where it was held last year. The problem with that is that if we get some high winds on the west side, which we do sometimes, it would be very difficult to launch. So we have got a land-based launch site tentatively very close to that. We're really in a dilemma, you see, because most of the property on the point is now going over into private hands, and people have personal opinions about whether or not fireworks should be used at all. And we're really looking for a home, and we're presently talking with the Parks Board, the Whatcom County Parks Board, about getting some sort of a home for our fireworks.
And I'm sure all the residents would be with you on that. The idea of no fireworks on the 4th of July in an American community is pretty tough.
Almost seems sacrilegious, doesn't it?
It does. All right. Now, we know that you've been quite involved in discussions with Whatcom County Parks and Recreation regarding programs in Point Roberts. How do you feel that this discussion is going with them?
Oh, I'm very gratified at this moment. We had a very good meeting. We finally were able to get together with some of the members of the board from the Whatcom County Parks and their administrator, and we thrashed out a few problems that have been, kind of ongoing for the last few years. We have high hopes that the Arts and Crafts Fair will be back next year. It's a go. It's a matter of logistics of putting it together again. The children's games are going to be down at the park. We'll be hosting the pancake breakfast on the 4th of July down there. There just seems to be a whole new attitude after the meetings that we had, and I'm very gratified about it, that I think that the park will come back into its own like it was many years ago, where it was a collecting point for local people and local activities. And I can't say enough about the reception we got off of, particularly Mr. Brian Lynch, the chairman.
It sounds like also there's been a tremendously positive little core group of volunteers that have just really launched into this and been interested in doing some good work.
That again is something that really pleased me. We had some people that got involved, and the first thing we knew, there was big happenings. There was kind of a children's fair, a mini arts and craft fair. I don't know what you could name it. I haven't seen all the parts of it yet, but it's just really great. It's happening, and I think we have a lot of people on the point now with the kind of a spirit that we need to go ahead. Like I said, the Arts and Crafts Fair was one of the largest in the Northwest, and I think that there's a lot of people will come out of retirement and come back because it was just a great thing. I just am so happy about the fact that people are willing to volunteer. We haven't seen this for a long time, and it's just so gratifying to us. I think as far as the parks are concerned, we have several park spots around the point. From what I would like to see is some way of connecting them, you know, some bicycle trails or walking trails or development of that so that people can get out. You know, we have a great nature point here. We've got coyotes, we've got deer, we've got a lot of birds and a lot of things here that a lot of people won't see anywhere else. In the walking trails, and I'm not talking about covering the point with them, but with discretion, maybe connect some of the parks if we can so that people can go back and forth.
Now we talk to Pamela Oakley, chair of the July 4th committee.
Well, this year we've decided to expand our activities to include not only the parade and the pancake breakfast, which are part of our usual fare, but also we're having a children and family festival at the UPS office grounds, and that's going to have a stage, all-day Dixieland band and entertainment.
Great.
We're going to have booth spaces. We're going to have all types of children's games, food vendors, crafts vendors. It's going to be quite a full days full of events. Lighthouse Park is featuring family relay games, a horseshoe tournament, and a family mountain bike race.
Will there be anything that will be suitable for, say, young children around 2 or 3?
Many of our children's games at the UPS are going to be geared for children of all ages. We'll have face painting, we're going to have pennies in a haystack, and go fish. And we've had very generous donations from local businesses and some vendors that I've approached out of Marketplace for prizes for our children's games.
Okay, now where's the pancake breakfast going to be held this year?
I believe at this point that the pancake breakfast is going to be held at the Breakers.
Okay. And I think someone mentioned earlier the possibility of a street dance. Is that part of the
6 to 10.
Yeah.
Until the fireworks start, we'll be having a street dance at the UPS grounds. We'll have Uptown Lowdown Dixieland Band playing until 8 p.m. and then from 8 to 10 we'll have a rock group playing.
We are now chatting with Russell Cooper, president of the Maple Beach Property Owners Association.
So can you tell us a little bit about the association and how it first came to be?
Well, it was a kind of an offshoot of an old club that was a combination of Canadian and U.S. People down in this area, the Boundary Bay Recreational Club. And they had a facility right on the border behind the old customs station there. And when the border was closed and the organization didn't seem to function anymore, the board of directors sold the property, and the money was then turned over to Maple Beach property owners with the caveat that they must use that money for recreational purposes, and that meant getting a clubhouse or getting something for the area. And so that's how we ended up with this, along with donations and from people in the area too.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit what your plans are for the park in the future and what sort of activities happen here?
Well, the activities at the moment, we have volleyball, I think, once a week. It's kind of organized by the people around here. There's some basketball, there's horseshoes. We now have a picnic shelter, which we hope to use for fundraising events and anybody else that wants to use it. The kids have bingo here every Monday night. We have the swings, as you can see. And one of the other future plans in the near future over here, once we get enough fill in, and we've had to fill this whole area anyway, is to have a court, a playing court, and that would encompass having volleyball nets in it, a basketball hoop, tennis court. Yeah, so that is the future plan. Beyond that, that's about where we're going, just to have a little facility for the kids to come to rather than always being out at the front.
By phone, we're talking with Brian Lynch, chair of the Whatcom County Parks Board.
Now, there are two county parks in Point Roberts. We have Lighthouse Marine Park and Monument Park. Does their location present particular problems in administering these parks and planning activities here?
Well, obviously the geographic location does impact the administration of these facilities and the programs that are available. Park staff on both sides of the border have been doing their best to overcome the obstacles that have been presented, and have mentioned to me that this particular location presents their greatest challenge and at times frustration. However, I've not heard a single staff member indicate that he or she is ready to throw in the towel. In spite of the problems that are involved with border crossings, hauling repair materials to the point, and the difficulty of finding building contractors at times who will bid on projects, our staff continue to try to provide the same level of service at Point Roberts as is available at other parks in the rest of Whatcom County.
Do you have any suggestions, again, for how the community of Point Roberts can work more closely with the County Parks Board and administration? The idea here would be to bring about a greater sense of Lighthouse Park being a focal point for local family outdoor activities.
Point Roberts, as I've mentioned already, there is a very active corps of volunteers, and of course that's integral in any community in providing family programs. We do have throughout our park system adopt-a-park programs where several community groups will adopt a particular facility and take on responsibilities with that facility for maintenance, say, or running programs, attending to some of these facilities that we have. My advice to the Point Roberts residents would be to take a look at and see what types of services that you might like to offer in an adopt-a-park mode, and work with the park manager to try to facilitate some programs like that, and communicate with the park board what your desires are, what your needs are for the future, and we'd certainly like to stay in touch with the Point residents and be involved in the process.
People love the beaches and parks in Point Roberts. The visitors love them, and the residents love them. And with the promise of a school coming soon to the Point, well, a lot of people are going to be far more interested in what goes on, what programs are available for children, adults, everybody that comes. I'm SHELLEY GITLITZ from Maple Beach Park, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any suggestions or comments, please feel free to write us at the All Point Bulletin, P.O. Box 1451, Point Roberts, Washington, 98281. This was the Point Bulletin, and we'll see you next time.